listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. How you guys doing? So we are live on turtleislandnews.info, of course. Revolution Radio, Studio A. Good morning, everybody. Awake Radio Group. Hi, guys. And Scottish Sovereigns on the Land. I think I got everyone. And I think Little Spirit Radio. So, it's awesome. You know, I've been really noticing something, and I have to say that our ancestors, or perhaps it was just us, I'm still thinking it was just us, had no idea how slow we would be this time. So much of our stories are so obviously not supposed to be taken word for word. Clues, if you will, synchronicities. And I found that people all over the world are doing the same thing, having the same conversations, talking about the same ideas in the last little while. 4 or 5 of people that I actually listened to ended up talking about Flat Earth last week. Here's what I want to tell you about that. Because it is time right now. It is time for you to wake up. Now, I'm not here trying to really, even wake up is wrong. I would just rather the people who are feeling these things right now know that they're not crazy. And for those who do understand, you don't really need an explanation. For those that don't, there's nothing we could say to them that will convince them. And when it comes to who I am severely clear, my dear. No fear on this new frontier. We've been planning this trip for many light years. You had your World War I, and the universe just watched. World War II, you exploded the bomb here. And there was no judgment on our part, because the ego always detaches. But the alert regarding the earth, warning, the kids have found the matches. We need a team. And always have, to go down and be part of this land of extreme beauty. But you always have to be careful when you enter Babylon, because they will slaughter you for less than rubies. So there I stood, light worker, system buster, illusion crusher, answering the call of duty. Everything that we've been warned about is happening. But we are still being greeted with glad tidings here. But in your previous lives, I'm sure that each and every one of us have been murdered many, many times. And it's easy to see, you know. Here in this earth. Probably simply for your writings, which no one understood and no one had, I guess no one really realized the depth of our solidity here. Not stupidity, per se, but how we would no longer be able to read the signs. We'd see the stories and think it was exactly what they meant. So your mission today is certainly not as easy as it would seem. And you see your clarity needs to be pristine. And before your insertion now, your entire memory must be redeemed. Even though at first you were wiped clean, because the vibration here, the frequency, is low. Very low on this earth. You need to stay grounded wherever you go. The illusion here is so thick, it's ridiculous. Even the so-called food here was manufactured to make you sick. Everything is backwards here in this twisted reality. The justice system is built on inequality. Lawmen dressed in uniforms of brutality. Schools destroy education. Doctors destroy your health. Religion destroys your spirit. And the leaders placed are puppets. Run by puppeteers who don't care. And in 500 years, a monumental event has taken place. In less than 500 years, we have almost completely destroyed this earth. When I say we, a handful of us from one little island across the seas have put us on the brink. Tipping point, I think I passed. We're past it. The way that people can now be so cavalier about these things, and the way they smear and they scare you, the planet is covered in fear and engineered and designed to leave you unclear. You can now just be enslaved with light beers and empty careers. It takes nothing. It takes nothing. And if you fail to recall your mission here, you will be trapped in this density for another 26,000 years. This is not an easy mission. You will need a way to find your memory and regain it fast now. And even though it's going to make you an outcast, and I swear this is what is going to happen to you, as soon as you choose to step away from this fake reality, you will be shunned, because everything's a test. You have to ignore the chorus and stay focused, and every division is an illusion, and it's all set to ensure your confusion. You see, you're part of everything, and everything is part of you. So there is no race, no politics, no sexual preference that should ever divide you. You are one. And the minute you participate in judgment, you hit the pavement with your enslavement and put another chain. And most of the planet will operate on these strands of DNA, bound by them, chained by them, so solid they may be the scapegoat now. Our father, Azazel, trapped in this prison. You can operate on 12 or 14, and you can operate on none of them. Calmly, with the power of the Trinity, you will transcend this energy, and you know what's ahead of you. I understand that thoughts create reality. And I've stood on the zenith and seen it. Victory is ours, and I'm going to redeem it. being inserted here so that we can change. And even though they tell us the month we were born means something, they use 12 zodiac signs out of billions. When you think you're only using 1% of your brain, think of 12 stars out of billions. And we're supposed to forget every other one? We were grabbed and thrown into this crap, chained like our mothers and our fathers. But we must transcend from the scorpion to the eagle to the phoenix in this life. Right now, there is no time. They inserted me directly into Babylon. And it is far too dangerous here. Whether or not we get replaced with a different team, they've tried to neutralize each and every one of us immediately from birth. Right when we hit this scene, they knew we were coming, starting us off, some of us at least, strong enough that we could fight later. Some of us, they made us fight from the moment we could walk, even before that. I was lucky enough to strengthen my immune system in a beautiful land, strong enough to resist the poisons of their vaccines for quite a while. My guidance system, like many of us here, has been the chakra of our heart. And our mission was simple: shine light into the dark. If your religion is anything but love, you have missed the mark. And that, you've been told, is sin. If you get caught up in the divisiveness, you absorb the dark and will be absorbed by it. Forgive, and forgive quickly. That's the only path here. And whatever you do to a single human being, that karma you will eventually have to marry. And I'll be right back. I'm back. And I do have news for you. Whatever you do, that karma you're going to have to marry. In other words, the love you withhold is the pain that you will have to carry. You want to know about your last life? What's wrong with you now? That's what you did. That's what you did. It's not a mystery. You could easily stay trapped here in this third density and believe everything you read, every word for word. But I am here today to guide you back to your true identity. And when you come to a fork in the road and you're confused about how to make that call, ask yourself, is this decision serving my ego? Or is it serving the highest good for all? Be conscious of your intentions from now on. It really matters in everything you do. And remember, you do not have to attend every argument that you're invited to. You can make that choice. Now, every story and every tale, I laughed so hard in the last couple days, you know. I have laughed so hard. Wait a minute. Somebody's having a problem with the audio. Try refreshing. It's magic. Anyway, it wasn't funny. but I have a tendency to see things funny. And you're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy, and I am going to preach to you a little bit. The Jade Helm. Brava. Bravissimo. The synchronicities made me laugh. I have a little image of it. I won't go into much of the crap right now because it's ridiculous. But, so they have this sword crossing two arrows. Then I thought about the flat earth that we've been talking about, and how the ancients said the exact same thing, that the earth was flat and we are here under the dome. And then I read this article about the terror domes being set up all around the States. Welcome to the Thunderdome. These are the four winds. These are the four corners. This is the swastika. Everything, good and bad, has told you what time it is right now. What we should be doing right now, live in the Thunderdome. And I'm sorry if I was here last time and I left these clues for myself. It took me a minute. But we have enough of us saying the exact same thing, and surprisingly within days sometimes of each other, or hours sometimes of each other. Not copying, but hearing the same call. The exact same call. Plans for 17 cities. Citas. That's what city is. It's an ancient word used for modern times. That's all. I should say that you need to confront danger and fear before they become closed and you become closed in it or by it, instead of allowing it to greet you on your doorstep while your loved ones are inside. Run and face it so you can prevent it. This also means that everything is not contained here. Only the framework that is needed for you to build your own ladder, said by everybody, out of the cube of flesh, or the Jehovian time, or the Yadabeo for my Gnostic brothers and sisters. From there, the cube always goes to the sphere of spirit, the terror globe. Always. And from then, you go to the flat earth, which is still this same sign that I found for this jade helmet, which is hilarious when you look into the implications of that. The truth here is that we are walking into a spontaneous pandemonium. This is the ancient art of war. And another article that also made me laugh, it was warmer in Antarctica than it was in New York last week. And that's not even the bad news. We have to decide right now, as we have always had to make this choice every time there's been a change on this planet, what will we be next? There's no God going to do it to you. You and I, who are here, who are seeing this, will have to change ourselves. Decide which will be the next manifestation on this earth. It is time for you to get up and fight. Really. But not on the streets. Not with a weapon. But with the things that we have always been told that we already have. And we live in a time when common sense has become quite rare. Likewise, the voice of reason has fled humanity, running, screaming away from you. For these reasons, I think it's going to be quite difficult for many to understand or believe or imbibe. If you were running the world during these times, and you knew the events that were on the horizon which forever would alter the entire planetary civilization, would you lose the global mainstream media to tell everyone? If these earth-shattering events were unstoppable, as they were fearful, would you share this? I don't think you would. I don't think you would. This is beasts and bad men or Buddhas of battle. The end and perfection of our victories is to avoid the vices and the infirmities of those whom we subdue. We study history in order to make history. And by making history, we remake history in our own image. Memory. That greatest of tricksters, Loki, laughing with his long nose. So we study the histories, the actions and thoughts of those who have gone before, whose singular, often solitary, all too often sinister souls, who long ago forded the forbidding rivers of personal doubt and climbed over or squeezed around or else broke and blasted and bribed their way past any boulder or bonehead blocking their way, dauntless, ruthless, carving paths through the dark wilderness of ignorance to the wisdom awaiting in the clearing just beyond. We're moving to the ethers. We are going back to the darkness. We decide who lives or dies. The aliens? Oh, they're from somewhere else. The ETs, yes, they're from somewhere else. The UFOs? Yeah, you don't know what it is because that is your consciousness and it is now out there. The nature spirits, somehow largely waned and recessed after this patriarchal takeover from our multidimensional history, but we gave ourselves clues and told us exactly what to do. The aliens took a step back into the larger circuit of nature to let us more independently cultivate, evolve. And we still evolve, and it's done quickly, and it's done suddenly. We choose what we will be next, and the world changes. Of course, usually the tales of some messianic spice here and there. It just happens. The aliens, which you are, don't recognize human religious institutions as an exclusive representative of anything, because they're always made to enslave you. They're established mostly private relationships with individuals, sometimes small groups of people. Aliens recognize the institutions and their leaders as local earthly petri dish apotheosis gods, if you will. They don't recognize so-called authority over the right to check the flock and set up connectivity directly feeding systems with tubes that is in the center of the earth, which is in the center of us, and they suck on these tubes. Whether it be Jesus or Moses or Yadabeo or Yahweh or Muhammad and the one God Allahs or Joseph Smith or Archangel Moroni, or for that matter certain activities in ancient India now secretly admitted that there was an ET role all along, but you don't understand what the ET is. That is you taking another aspect of yourself. But the key here, the key, he who controls the hearts and the minds of humanity, he who is the custodial authority of all matters, of our souls and status in the universe, is not something out there. Yes, there's the moon. Yes, there's the sun. Look to the sun. It is an eye. It is a doorway to the future. You want to see if you should continue on this path? Look to the sun. The sun will tell you. If you want to see what led you to this path you're on, look to the moon at night. The moon doesn't go away during the day, neither does the sun at night. They're both there, whether you see them or not. It's all about what you choose to believe. And this is the art of war, the art of privilege that has set you up to believe that you are not part of this thing, that things are done to you. If you're listening to me today, and I thank you for doing that, know that you are part of the future. We will decide what will happen next, as we always have. We're here for each other. We are here to fight for the souls of this earth. And it will change. It's changing now. Whether people want to believe it or not, whether they want to bury their heads under the sand, it will happen regardless of their fear. And it's true, you know. All these often peerless and fearless pioneers of personal empowerment were all designed to hack a clear path through acres of worry weeds and clinging vines deliberately planted in our paths by fellow men who are insolent and lazy, but carve these paths weeded. And now, whether we choose to follow in their footsteps, our footsteps, intrepid, insightful, insidious, or as determined as they, inspired by example, anecdotes, stories, we instead choose to map out our own unique path. We can take comfort and further inspiration from the fact that we, have both their thoughts and our thoughts to guide us. A double-edged sword, if there ever was one. Yet can our thoughts of adventure, of glory, perhaps revenge, be enough to augment the elder teachings and together bolster us for the coming struggle? You know, right now, I think if you're not fighting to make yourself better, you should just die and get out of my way. I really mean it. I do. I do. If you are not finding a way to help your children right now and help yourself right now, seriously, get out of my way. The thoughts that tempt and test the mind are not necessarily the same thoughts that trouble the sleep and waking moments of wise people. Solomon, who was dubbed the wisest man that ever lived, powerful king, harem of 4,000 wives and concubines, who authored The Wisdom of Solomon, allegedly, believed written when he was at the height of his youth and power and vigor. Later, he would also write Ecclesiastics, whose resigned, almost fatalistic tone leads experts to conclude it was near the end of his life, in the days of waning health, after he'd been there, done that, and had grown cynical. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What does a man gain by his toil? His words. Other words, it's not unheard of for the wide-eyed optimism and ambitions of youth to become and succumb to a raised eyebrow. Ultimately, cynical, narrow-eyed abandonment of dreams and pride and principles in waning years. All too often, for all too many, age becomes synonymous with settling for less. But not all men, of course. Cynical. I don't know. Perhaps 3 out of 4 have never lived to see a ripe old age. The conquerors. And the ones who fight for the people. And there are people, you've met Two Dog, who has had to fight from the moment of his birth. And been wounded by it. But still has a heart. Some people make light of that. Well, I don't. A little bit more optimistic, I guess. But in the course of anyone's life, you find enthusiastic springs, optimistic summers, pragmatic falls, inevitably harsh, cold reality of winter truce. This is how things go. This is how things change. So studying the words of great and powerful people, men for all seasons, if you like, must not look at who penned the wisdom. Doesn't really matter. Whether or not it was written while wallowing in a lap of luxury, or hurriedly scribbled in the heat of battle, or afterwards. Different times try men and their souls differently. Events. A man in one era decries as a crisis, and another time would say it was opportunity. The news that you see today, horrific or not, could be either. It is how you perceive it, and perception creates reality. Thus, to some, we are the beast. To others, bad men. To others, viewing us from a clearer, perhaps kinder perspective, we may be Buddhas. Beings who relentlessly pursue wisdom and freely share it, in spite of ourselves. It is not the slaughterer who normally gets killed. It's the one who talks of peace. When we examine deviant, devilish, or simply determined DNA, such as we share, we must look beyond the superficial. The Spartacus, so obviously inspired by Hannibal, which was older, that gladiator turned slave messiah, walked the same Roman roads as the Carthaginian conquerors 100 years before, perhaps 1,000, some 1,800 years after Spartacus, was himself taken in chains to the hills of his native Thrace. Another rebel, guerrilla, fighter, Vlad Tepes, fought in the same old hills, perhaps using the same hidden ways and tunnels of Spartacus. What of Yoritomo? If not sharing the same Mediterranean bloodline as Hannibal, Spartacus, Vlad Tepes, who all actually linked to Africa, not spilling the same enemy's blood, still the Japanese commander would share the DNA of determination with his Carthaginian, Thracian, Romanian counterparts. Yoritomo knew, as Hannibal knew, as Spartacus knew, as Vlad Tepes knew, what it is to hunker down against the greedy blades of a vicious enemy beneath the bush. They are new, however briefly, the pleasure of seeing your patience and planning and persistence finally pay off as your humbled enemy is brought before you, either on his knees or head on a pole. It said the white Buddha, around 400 BC, spent years wandering in the wilderness, practicing all kinds of painful yoga, as you know it is. I get a headache just looking at it. Fasting, meditating for 40 days without let up before ultimately entering a higher state of awareness and enlightenment, known as nirvana. In this way, he became Buddha. He was a prince. He had worldly treasures, worldly things, all of the things that you could have if you do the right stuff now. It's still what we're taught, and he had to choose something else. This is a way. It's telling us what we must do. And while Buddhism worldwide today is known for its dedication to nonviolence, down through the ages, it is a very violent group that have called themselves Buddhists, proudly proclaimed their Buddhism, their lineage, Chinese Shaolin monks, Japanese Yamabushi warrior monks, as well as samurai Buddhists and ninjas. But since, at its most basic, Buddhism fearlessly dives into the depths of the human mind in order to uncover the roots of our negative patterns. It's hardly surprising that such an intimate knowledge of inner workings of our inner mind offers some, plenty, really, opportunity for misuse like everything else. And it's interesting, just a note here, especially for the task at hand, that the prince found enlightenment, that he needed to become the Buddha through suffering, which he had determined was the very nature of human existence. Buddha's first noble truth, all life is suffering. It is the nature of man, he suffers. You know, at what point did the world stop being celebrated? At what point did we start thinking and make every religion think that we deserve this? That we a little bit dig it? And throughout the lifetimes, Hannibal, Spartacus, Yoritomo, Vlad, they all knew suffering. Suffering that could not but have had an influence on their freaking outlook. Admittedly. and their output of suffering equally in measure, sometimes a little bit on the side of we're coming back. And you don't need to be Sigmund Freud here to remind us we made as much of our sins and sufferings as we made by sermons we hear. We are being triggered by certain things, and apparently it has happened a long time ago, or the stories wouldn't be telling us the exact same thing. But one way or another, having paid dues and suffering, the prince or king or whoever you want to put your good guy in there gains enlightenment through your suffering. When you change it and stop it, you too, whether it's individual sufferings, having our lands violated, our people killed, ourselves hunted, thrown into slavery, brought those men personal enlightenment. I don't know. Has it done it to us? I find as soon as you suffer, you certainly can become empathetic to other people's suffering. It's changed me, you know. But if not enlightenment, then at least experience via suffering bring you insight, perhaps even revelation, and increase your ability to focus anger, righteous or otherwise, hone your hunger for justice, and sometimes for revenge, then the suffering was worth it. It doubles our determination. Will we escape retribution? I don't know. The same dagger that does evil can also do good. The same bullet that brings suffering can relieve suffering. Such is the nature of things. Did not the wise Buddha declare it is the nature of man to suffer? You might argue, though, Hannibal, Spartacus, Yoritomo, Vlad Tepes were Buddhas of battle, doing what came naturally. Let us, therefore, let them enlighten us. If you are scared to ask, you'll be terrified by the answer. From the 99 sayings of Hannibal, a victim of injustice from infancy, I have created a view of life very different from other men's. Oh, I concede I have become wicked, even cruel. Woe betide anyone who offended me, if I could snatch a favorable moment. I was the more dangerous because I never avenged myself till I was certain of success. I never showed my hatred till the instant I could actually satisfy it. So it's been promised to us that time heals all wounds, and indeed, it might. I found this obscure little 2007 study. Said barely 3 months after a betrayal, people are 8 times less likely to report having negative feelings towards their transgressor. Curiously, but not to me, it surprised them, women held grudges longer. Men were 4 times as likely to actually seek revenge, though. It seems sometimes you don't actually let go. 9/11 comes to mind in many different ways. But still, it's never advisable to go off half-cocked, lest you soon find yourself in over your head, protective firefight you can't win, from which you literally return, well, half God. Prudence, patience, planning, sturdy tripod on which revenge sits. By the way, if your sensitivities are offended by the use of this word, revenge, feel free to substitute justice every time you hear me say revenge. Beware, though, lying to yourself is a very freaking costly habit, and the infamous advice that revenge is a dish best eaten cold would have pleased Hannibal himself, cautioning that revenge should be undertaken after balancing patience and preparation. Some historians argue that Hannibal lost the Second Punic War between Carthage and Rome in revenge for his father's defeat at the hands of the Romans in the First War. The revenge angle of this is bolstered by an oft-told tale of Hannibal, how still a boy, his father took him into Carthage, their greatest temple, made him swear on the sword of his ancestors never to make peace. Well, he's complex, this man. And while not living in today's alleged high moral standards, there's much about him that we need to look at. His sense of duty, sense of honor, his bravery, his use of intelligence, both innate and gathered varieties. His time demanded much of men, that they keep their word to a friend and do their duty to family. Then again, perhaps not so much to ask, though many today would argue it's too much of a burden, because we don't see that much. So you're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy, and we will be right back. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. Our universe here and the nearby universe is protected and policed, as is our reality. Think quarantine, embargo, isolation, deception, intervention, surveillance, breeding samples, protection, camouflage, plausible deniability. Think of the flat earth, the divided, the DVD. It's probably why we're so hearing of the genetic manipulation and the silicon ideas and the AI, which is always called David. David, this is where we're going to. This is what we're all seeming to look at right now. And then the next. Think about the wave, the convergence of diverse human, alien, cosmic influences. Who are the essential usurper players in this game? Who in power has the most to lose in facing the prospect of voluntary evolution, an uplift, a paradigm change from the patriarchy to balance between who indeed the essential players? And remember, everything I say is entirely hypothetical, science fiction, fantasy play, if you will. I'm sure you figured that out. And I've never classified or seen a classified document in my life. Swear to God, don't lose any sleep over this. The human ideas towards the ET situation, religious-wise, is just a stairway to heaven. as the sky watching cults, both sun and moon worship. Sun worshippers were and are macho, male, phallic worshipping, violent, one god fixated warriors, capitalists focused on competition and winning, and the use of force in the name of redistribution of resources, of power, in their own concentrated favor. Sacrificed blood of war, blood of Christ, and wine, highly valuing space, property, territorial separation, and control, masculine domination over everything else. But especially the moon worshippers were, perhaps are, equal opportunity, feminine worshipping, embracing divine, spirits of nature, artisans, empathetic uses of cooperation, teamsmanship, group-mindedness, the sacred blood of womb, blood of life, soma, high valuing cycles of time, continuity, inclusive connections, the divine feminine with and together, the gender difference that gives the masculine principle a bad name is twisted growth. This occurs when the masculine tries to operate without feminine energy and balance in real partnership. There was a hostile takeover, a radical downsizing of the feminine religions around 6,000 years ago, all over Europe, all over Asia. The Muslim, Judaist, Christian faiths. But still, when we look back to it, it's all a latest wave of one religion that went around 3,000 years ago and took over everything. The systems are and have done everything to usurp and condemn any continually resurfacing element of the goddess cults since then. Although there's always a little bit left in all indigenous cultures worldwide. But the hostile takeover was very successful. And after radical downsizing, then slyly, blatantly took over markets and the hearts and the souls of human beings and the superstitious symbols that drive them. These symbols are well-known religious symbols. What's this suppressed goddess history stuff? What does it have to do with alien? It might not be here, if we had not executed such a hostile takeover of the goddess religions. Or they might have already integrated into our very different cultures. This ancient hostile takeover could be one of the reasons this ET is such a big deal right now. Since we have pushed our spiritual connection with our earth and with nature and with each other to an all-time low, while pushing our knowledge of how to manipulate it to an all-time high. Now, high-tech spirituality has found new high-tech gods. But could it also be that the patriarchal regions and religions reign? There's a reason there's all these R words. Are the sole reason humanity has not integrated with our higher selves, the ET. There's always some form of Jesus, and above him another form of God that we're supposed to be going to, becoming. Patriarchal institutions have been designed to keep men, some men, in power over God and Goddess and separated from nature, the netters, more than we should and more than they would admit. So what is this new religion? This appropriation of all of these natural ritual power symbols. Is it part of the takeover? Is it a redeployment of assets? What's this all have to do with above top secret intelligence, military activities, especially all those partnered alien programs that we have been told are going on, breeding, evacuation preparations, ambassador training, harvest puppets? Just now, you're saying and starting to get a glimpse of the grand complexity of the overall circuitry of this gangdom continuum to take what we know is truth and throw it back in our faces. All these aspects to the problem reveal themselves even more rapidly in the relationships when we consider how we've been told this ET alliance issue has splintered and fractured the controlling intelligence apparatus in the world along anti-spiritual lines. The fractional arc, which is in our head, are a direct lineage to the fractional spiritual influences and human historical conditioning. There are very cultish distinctions in the world's secret controlling multi-level echelon here. These are all intelligence clans and cabals and crony systems. They are all derived, in historical terms, from the Catholic Church, its secret orders, up to the A-bomb period, when independence developed between the key players into factions. But it's like saying, I would like some ice cream, but I would like 97 flavors of it. It is a crucible, and it yields an amalgam of relatively aligned forces and extremist allied forces, an entirely secret new world order that falls out of the hands of those who benefited first and most from captured alien ideas. It is what they've set us up to believe. But there's a gum in the works. Divine beings, in religious terms, have always considered above the flesh, above worldliness of physical impediment, above the limitations of physical cosmos. And now, they are still. Are they the slimy bugs, the lizards, or other Dr. Moreau morph out of our animal kingdom? Or are they the heavenly hosts, the angels, the Olympian man-gods of myth and history? The stakeholders here, being part of the divine history, is of difficult assimilation. And will our institutions survive the disclosure of what we really are? chaos is a keep them busy doctrine for maintaining control of the faithful by preventing our creative aspect in spiritual terms. Inflicting chaos of social and human pain is a means to their ends of power. Pursuit of truth, no matter how profane this truth or methods to obtain it. The lesson of the fallen angel is not lost on me, nor them from their viewpoint. Some people should be horrified by this, I would think. Cults have encoded spiritual signals and gained power for the warriors and the business caste. The phallic, the serpent, the sun cult worshippers amongst the elite military and economic classes and classes commissioned by the most powerful religious centers, moon, female principle worship, are still present and not so hidden in the cross-dressing religions of the planet. No offense. A little bit of offense. But the feminine principle, the worship, still practiced as family and community and inclusive environmentalism today. And to see the hidden truth, you only need to consult the right symbolic codebook dictionary. Dictionary of cryptographic mutations of soul, evolution, and control. A dictionary where the mutations are the key to the human connection with the cosmos and the spiritual world, the connections to all of our forefathers. Social symbols evolve to great new meaning. This is a dictionary where the mutations are the power and the consciousness of nature and the heavens and the earth and the symbols that connect between them. And the politics is about our rights to individually have the freedom and personal sovereignty to access and access those symbols and identify who we are through them. Spiritual symbol control. It's just a way for spiritual energy control in order to keep the populace maintained. And some would prefer to profit from the prevention of free evolution than to let it topple. So too, economic, warrior, phallic, serpent, secret society cults, the women's bodies is the property of the state via the law. The law of ancient, covert, hostile takeover of planet Earth. Freedoms are state privilege and have never been a fundamental human right under the law, from church canon law to maritime law to modern national government laws. Humanity has always been the chattel of the Lord from the church point of view, or the chattel from the state from the economic point of view. So true freedom is granting rights to devil worship, symbolic, counterintelligence, of course. And so it must be narrowly privileged and simply not a functional right. This is how deep things go. All of Western civilization is a consequence of how institutional humanity formed in response to and adapted to one of the last great events, the creation of Jesus Christ. Anyway, that makes contact and Achilles heel, especially for religious institutions and their profane entity masters. Larger issue here is the spiritual energy vortices and other cosmic fluxes that are opening up in this region of the universe. Dimensional permeability, holes, I guess, as we've talked about, between us and all the other worlds in the spirit realms are increasing. Tremendous energies are available for simulation or destruction, it appears. Hey, who called the cops? Depending on how the energies and influences are integrated or resisted. Sometimes the old, standard, symbolic, ritualistic practices just don't work. And probably haven't for a long time. Or mantras would not have to be repeated 108 times. But unfortunately others work too well and have become almost frightening in their power. One reason the military is so highly involved right now in creating hybrids and human/animal hybrids too is present and produce something different, capable of both human type control and the alien, if you will. A new interface between us and the cosmos and us and our computer. A new telepathic interface, which we have talked about. Not fantasy here, it's true. To do all the things that we could actually do with our own bodies if we were just taught, shown, tried to do it. We do not need a car to travel. If we were taught that our own bodies were capable of doing these things, which some of us are learning, some of us are channeling these energies. But unfortunately, we are trapped in a need for the silicone-based society. This is the DVD. This is the David. This is the flat earth. This is the earth under a dome, and we're told there is a glass ceiling. That's what that means, that we are trapped. If you believe that you are trapped on planet Earth, that you are trapped here in your body, then you can never use your body in the way it's supposed to. And with a normal person, the power of language is almost by itself sufficient to place a consciousness into a limited band capacity of attention distribution. Experience not only within the vocabulary of articulation, how we say things, just becomes ignored, avoided. They want to make something that is just telepathic, perhaps, that overcomes the hypnotism of language, which we could do ourselves. The lack of telepathic interface is often only the conscious energy in play. Drop the invested autonomic control energies, controlling attention and mind and feeling and intuition. Our bodies connect to itself and each other and the cosmos and every living entity around us through an internal Wi-Fi. But they have used the AI system with external Wi-Fi. It is how your body controls itself. You already do this. We do not need this. in the psychonomic broadcasting, the antenna detection systems try to influence and sense thought waves, emotional waves, scalar, space events, EM-like resonance that you already have. And for now, Pandora's box is opened and maintained in the butterfly net. And we're unable to tell what some agendas are because we can't read that mind. And they're not telling. Those entities are deft at communication and contacting us using advanced subliminal techniques. It is why it's so hard for so many to meditate. You get this voice in your head. That's when I told you about the guardian at the gate. That being. And you can tell how much it controls you by, you're meditating. You get to that place of quiet and you don't hear, should I be talking to you right now? Or do you have to go in a half an hour and pick up so-and-so? Or did you think that you can actually do this? All those voices, it's the same voice. It's the guardian that you must overcome. These entities are meddling with our society pretty openly right now. And whether you want to call the techniques that they're using an entity or not, that's fine. If you don't look at it that way, that's okay. It could just be, it's just a machine, right? But they are interested in their usual antics, getting genetic samples before the pool is completely destroyed. The Earth won't be destroyed by aliens or cosmic catastrophe, but by all things that are done here. Mankind would destroy itself and life on the beautiful Earth, if allowed. A few guys that are so greedy, and their military, are doing all this, and have done it so quickly that my mind is like spinning. I've been told that some of these people who, still believe in this alien thing, that some are future humans in different timelines. Some future humans have returned using technology to travel through time to hybridize their future genetic complement with genetic stocks of this time and age. Pandora was a woman, symbolic of the goddess religions of the past. Nature was put in a box by the patriarchal religions. She, in a matter of speaking, has returned to open that box. Although, if you read the less sweet Reader's Digest version of that, it was her husband who took it. So then, that's where I get patriarchy. The institutions of power want to keep the lid closed. They do not want you to know your power and feel too much has already flowed out of Pandora's box. Anything that has made it out of the box has been labeled and placed into a new kind of box, an invisible box without a lid, without walls, where the truth lies right out in the open, but the wrapping still exists in our minds, in our hearts. This is the status quo, and these things are changing into a new state, a new relationship with God or Goddess, nature, spirit, cosmos, and the human society will never be the same. They are known and unknown trigger conditions that are occurring, that are accelerating, and sometimes impede the process of our change and the process of integration with this larger cosmic family. Whether or not mass covert contact is going on with aliens. If there are aliens, and if that story was not completely manipulated, like we know every story was, and they've rewritten every book for their agenda, if it is happening, it will not stop, and there's nothing they can do about it. I don't believe we're alone on this earth. That much of what's out there we can't see. But it's their whole idea, that you are controlled by 12 constellations, even though there are millions of constellations that are involved in your birth. And there in your birth. You can pick the 12, which is a nice little number, or not. A simple idea, though, that should spark you, is that you are a fragment of the one or the nothing. And there are souls invested in humanity that may be cultivated into something different and somehow beyond. Not necessarily better than us. But unfortunately, the harvest rates, the bounty, are probably the real end game of what's going on. Tiny little passage in all of the old books, and said, oh yeah, and they are souls. Their regional, dimensional vortex going on right now. Our solar instability has caused much life on Earth to be unstable in the last 40 years. Ancient astrotheology calendars all end in and around, what time is it now? Dangerous interplanetary bodies, civilization-threatening capacity due to some serious damage to Earth. One way or another, we will leave Earth sooner or later. Those in control would rather save themselves, of course. Few elite worry about the whole of mankind, despite the presence of a very few well-meaning but deluded true human patriots amongst much, I think. Back in 1994, although, there's some argument about that, in the region beyond and in line with the Sirius double star system, made me think of Tupac again. That there would be increasingly open again within the next couple years. Peak resonance hitting us as a wave. That started around 2007. The Omega game. Critical choices. Already made, or at least fast approaching, you individually. Now originally, it looked like it was a death sentence to our sun. Caused by a vortex that opened near Sirius. And I think I have an image of that on the page. But unfortunately, it starved the sun of another connection, a divine energy, if you will, that caused it to emit vibrations, death, illness. We weakened. That's when I got, and a lot of people who have had physical challenges happened around 2006, 2007. The other hand, if the closure had not been done, apparently some evil events would have started I'm not sure. But the critical element here was an injection from high dimensional sources, spiritual, if you will. A special soul substance, high spirituality into Earth at the time. Something that happened earlier, around 90,000 years ago, that the Neanderthal was given a remarkable gift and started their beautiful architecture. Yes, they had architecture. And the beautiful drawings that they did in caves. Caves that were not just pretty in color, but they had movement. They had a flow. They have a power. These ancestors, who are us and who have, or perhaps it was us ourselves who said it's time to change. And we needed to. But at that point we became endowed with a gift, spiritual powerhouses, with their own individual soul vortices. Why we changed, I don't know. But that's how quick it can change. But right now, the serious vortices have opened up, amplifying the capacity of your soul. Not just humans, but all sentient beings here. Hey, it could be why CERN had a problem, power or not. Which, I'm not really excited about, to be honest. But actually, humanity has already started the evolution process in the last 10 years. So a lot of what we've been told is unpredictable. And it could be why they've spent the last 40 years trying to destroy absolutely everything, so we wouldn't have time. But if you stop believing in time, you can never run out of it. Will we need space migration? Or will we just blink out, go back to the stillness and the quiet and the darkness and watch new planets being born and choose to come back? I don't know. The wave has already happened, negatively for some, but advancing for others. Maybe even migrating part of our lost souls back, where we are starting to remember who we are, what we are. And a soul migration back from the past to a present is to redirect the next evolution. Change it. Change us from what happened before. So, the present, real future is engaged in counterphasing itself to a better outcome. Humanity is hitchhiking back into human genetics, our current time registration, to catch a new direction of the coming wave. The work that's going on privately now, and I'm talking out of the hands of DARPA, what people are doing with themselves and to themselves, is miraculous. And next week we're going to have some health news, because people have wanted to talk about this, so we will. The things that have happened, things that are happening, what we are doing with ourselves, what can be done easily to change yourself, make you healthier, is miraculous. There's this jellyfish that's being experimented on. Of course, DARPA's all over it, and people are using it at home as well. It's very hard to get. But this jellyfish It's been called the anti-aging. Well, it's not so much anti-aging. It grows to old age, middle age, but then has the power, when it's stressed, to regress back to like a little guppy thing. What does it do? It lives in cold water. But as far as they know, it never dies. It never dies. There are fish that have been found up north that are 14,000 years old. Not from 14,000 years ago, but 14,000 years old. It has lived that long. Do you not think you have fish DNA? Yes, you do. Not kind of like fish, not a little bit like fish. Fish DNA. You're related to everything that's here. Anything that's here that has miraculous abilities to heal, so do you. Your bones, when they break, they don't mend, they regrow. You little guppy, you. So we have all the power right here within us, with the sun, with the air, which is pretty involved, with the magnetic energies that don't just hurt you. You can use them to help you. Yes, the Wi-Fi. So all of their little moves to hybridize us, you can choose. You can choose. Saving the human race? You do not need to be genetically engineered for yourself to change. They're trying to do it so that humans will travel in space easier. Fine. Fine. But we are becoming equally immense genetic and dimensional and consciousness and evolutionary shift has already happened. It is already encoded. It may have been dormant in our genes for 90,000 years, and we decided it would just stay there till we need it. And now things are unlocking in us right now. We have the ability to do anything we believe. And we have a power that is untapped. Why are they giving us so many beautiful, imaginative, yes, a little dark TV shows? It is the power of your imagination that can actually change your body and your soul. Some of us here believe that we do have the right stuff to break free of our bonds and survive. And I don't think it'll take a long time. Do we repeat future bad history currently on schedule, or do we phase tunnel into the new future? Does the snake continue to eat its tail, where the Omega game is over and starts over, and the Alpha game once again, or do we graduate to something else beyond this historical pattern loop? The loop is the harvest being plowed under. If it happens, well, and goes positively, the loop will be broken, and the new unpredicted virgin future will happen. In that future, certain negative power enclaves, cabals, hives will not survive, and it will be over. We are changing now. I'm changing, and it's not just the little voice in my head this time. We will choose. What's going on now is unprecedented in our history. And there have been many falls of man. Main fall, according to the Guardians, was 500 million years ago. From the higher dimensional universe into our 3D world. When we walked up the Mount Harmony, got our 33 degree, which is in our spinal cord, which is why I don't believe that the Masons actually have 33 degrees. We already have them. Look at their symbol. Look at their symbol. It is a compass. So that is a human body. It's got that little head on top where you hold it. It's got those two little arms, and on the bottom the two little legs. You know, one that has the pin and one that has a pencil. And what is controlling us? What blocks us? What ages us? What times us? It is the G. It is the gravitational force. That's all. We need to become the architect of our own bodies and our own minds. And we always could. Whether or not there was a Luciferian rebellion, which is funny, or some Anunnaki, or something from Alpha Centauri or the Zetas, or whatever. We're talking about energy balancing. And that's all. We created shadow selves, severe DNA mutations of life forms. And of course, humans have come down to this physical thing for whatever reason. I cannot imagine when we thought this would be a good plan. But this arena always creates problems. Negative forces. This is more their level. They can draw on us parasitically, on our average human energy. Different tools used today, of course, by dark forces, but they're the same tools as always. Keep us divided, keep us hungry, keep us afraid. And this is what our chains are. But the principal forces behind all these negative forces are archetypes. And there are 4 archetypes. You can call them Anunnaki, Dracos, Necromatons, and the Zetas, the Greys. 4 types of beings. You can also call them Leb, the lion, the serpent, the Necro. I would say that's the voice in your head. That's the guardian at the gate. And the 4th could be us, or the hive mind. Those 4 forces against us, because there has to be 5 always, right? We need the thumb to use. Those 4 forces, if you want to make it external and pretend they're little monsters running across the universe, or look out and say the reason there's that UFO is because I cannot no longer control my own soul. I'm saying it's time to stop looking at your gods, your aliens, and look in yourself and find a way through. Is it that hard to believe that we are actually powerful beyond belief, beyond measure? That would be the scariest thing that the controllers of this planet have ever tried to keep us from. If we really didn't need them, if we really could heal ourselves, if we really were that powerful, it would change everything. You know, our schools make our kids miserable. everything around us is to make us afraid and sick and miserable. But there are so many things that we can do ourselves. And I'm telling you, they had given me up. A lot of ways I had given myself up, saying there's nothing I could do to change. But I have changed. I am stronger. And I did not need any of their medicine. I did not need a special magic word. Hope, perhaps, shining through in the darkness. And words really go astray today. But the winds have calmed, and the warmth once again, embracing us with a gentle touch. And I realize we've been going over some recently pretty low-key issues that are going on. And the energy here is so very, very dense. And with Easter coming up, it's expected to get even worse. Lots of people's grief on behalf of religion and spirituality in their souls. Some say that the collective consciousness is the grid that we plug into. I don't see it like that, really. I see it more like a mist. Several mists, really, each mirroring the densities of our chakras. And obviously, with the root chakra as the heavy one, we must go upwards, and the mist become light and swirl into a vortex. So, let's establish that for many spiritually engaged people, the last 3 and 4 weeks have been really hard and really tiring. And I went into transformer mode yesterday. And it's been a while since I've been able to do that consciously. Sometimes we go into our sleep and maybe someone would say to you that they met you in that space. And you're not necessarily consciously aware of that, but don't worry. It doesn't matter. I guess some souls are like cinnamon. And they are sweet. Join me on Thursday. I don't know what we're doing, but I'm sure it'll be timely. Thank you very much for listening. Bye for now, guys.